Absolutely massive news from Hims and Hers before the market opened today. They announced a partnership with Novo Nordisk to bring Wegovy to Hims and Hers for $599 per month. Now, that's still very expensive for GLP-1s, but this is the kind of partnership that could reduce risk by a drastic amount for Hims and Hers. That was really the big fear for investors, is that some of these traditional pharma companies were going to actually come after the company for producing compounded GLP-1s. I don't think that was as big a risk as a lot of people thought. But that risk was definitely out there. Now it turns out these two companies are working together, and this could be the beginning of a framework. I have long called Hims and Hers more of a platform company than it is just a product company. It's one of the reasons that I think it's such a disruptive opportunity in healthcare. And this really shows that that's exactly what they're building. Today, I'm going to get to the news and exactly what you need to know about it, why this is one of the stocks that I have in the asymmetric portfolio. Shares are up 113% since I originally covered Hims and Hers. That was only in May of 2024, and I think there is massive potential from here. My name is Travis Hoyam. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content, and if you want more from that asymmetric investing portfolio, check out Asymmetric Investing. There's a link on the screen and a link in the show notes. You can get started there for free, and that portfolio has crushed the market since I began it in 2023. And thanks to this video sponsor, FinChat. FinChat is really the only research tool that you need as a long-term investor. They have all the financial information, phenomenal charting. Every chart that you see here on Asymmetric Investing is from FinChat. They have transcripts, and now you can even interact with AI in conference call transcripts. So you don't have to go through the whole transcript, spend an hour listening to them. You can go in, did Hims and Hers talk about GLP-1s? Did they talk about weight loss solutions? How big is that business? You can find all that information extremely quickly. Made my life so much easier. This is a product I pay for, and they do a sale twice a year. That sale is happening this week. If you sign up for FinChat at finchat.io/ASYM, they're going to give you 25% off. Like I said, this isn't a deal that they run all the time. You can get 2 weeks for free, and then you get 25% off through that link. So check that out. Like I said, this is a tool that I pay for myself. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Let's get to the news from Hims and Hers. And this is the press release today. You can see Hims and Hers and Novo Nordisk team up to expand affordable access to care. So they're going to be bringing Wegovy to the Hims and Hers platform under a long-term collaboration roadmap. Now, not a lot of details about exactly what this means, but this is potentially the beginning of a long-term partnership. As a first step, you can get Wegovy for just $599 per month. I'll go to some of the pricing and what competitors are pricing their products at right now. And this gets customers access to what they call a Hims and Hers membership. That includes access to 24/7 care, ongoing clinical support, nutrition guidance, all in one place. This is really Hims and Hers. This is kind of a transition they've made really over the past 6 months or so, trying to be much more of a holistic solution. So they're offering some food and snack products along with weight loss products. I think we're going to really see them lean into artificial intelligence and being able to take in all the information that you take in when you prescribe a weight loss solution and say, you know what, you should do this weight loss solution, but you should also be on this sort of meal plan, maybe this sort of exercise plan. That's where they can really take their care to the next level. And that's the advantage of being the platform company that they're building. There are also some interesting nuggets in here. The companies are also developing a roadmap that combines Novo Nordisk's innovative treatments with Hims and Hers' ability to scale access to quality care, aiming to improve long-term outcomes for people more affordably. So the question is, why is this such a big deal? And I want to go through kind of a history of what's gone on with Hims and Hers and weight loss, why the stock has skyrocketed earlier this year and then fallen back. If you go back to May 2024, they announced they were bringing GLP-1 injections and passing savings on to customers. Really what they were doing is they were compounding semaglutide. That's what you see here on the left and on the right. And that product is just $199 per month. Now that pricing changed a little bit. They went down to $99 a month for some military veterans, teachers, nurses, and first responders. But that was kind of the price range that we saw with Hims and Hers, is $99 to $199 per month. And that was significantly lower than we had from traditional GLP-1 products. And you can see some of those options here. This is just the Hims and Hers site. You can see that we've already updated the site. Wegovy, $599 per month. But what else do we have? Ozempic, $1,800 per month. Mounjaro, $1,900 per month. Zepbound, $1,900 per month. And now they're starting to get into generic liraglutide. That's $299 per month. So you can see that they were bringing a much lower cost solution to consumers, but it was a compounded product. There are some potential side effects with compounded products, but it allows you to have more control over what those dosages are. If they don't make a Wegovy dosage that's specifically right for you, a compounded solution may be a better option for you. So that's really the medical reasoning behind it. And then there was a shortage of these branded products. So that's kind of the loophole that Hims and Hers used to get into that business. And you can see from this chart here that the company's growth just absolutely took off after those compounded GLP-1s were introduced. It was still a high growth company previously, but we're talking about 90 to 100% growth over the past couple of quarters. And you can see in these guidance numbers that management expects that growth to continue into 2025. For the first quarter, growth expected to be right around 90%. And for the full year, this is even after the impact of GLP-1s, the compounded GLP-1s coming off of the product line at the end of the first quarter. Growth is expected to be 56 to 63% for the full year. Adjusted EBITDA also expected to increase, and those margins are expected to expand as well. So what this is going to do for Hims and Hers is bring more of those branded products onto the platform. I think what we're ultimately going to see is Wegovy is probably going to become very, very popular on Hims and Hers. That's going to force Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, all of these traditional pharmaceutical companies to come to Hims and Hers and say, you know what? We want our product on your platform. You have high volume, you have high growth. That's what we want to partner with. We don't want to be in litigation with you. We don't want to be suing you into oblivion just so we can keep our prices high. We want to get these products into more people's hands and grow that way, because somebody is going to take advantage of this platform and the growth that Hims and Hers has. The first company to do that is Novo Nordisk. I think we're going to see others follow. And then that risk that investors have been really worried about is going to come down. And as that risk comes down, I think this is an extremely undervalued stock. This is a chart that shows the price to sales multiple for Hims and Hers. You can see that price to sales multiple, just 4.3. There are not a lot of companies out there that are trading for a 4.3 price to sales multiple and growing revenue at 90%. Now, 90% may not be the company's long-term revenue growth rate, but let's say the revenue growth rate is 30% or 40%. That's still an extremely cheap valuation, especially when you consider that the company is becoming more profitable quarter after quarter. Now, management said in the last conference call that they think they can increase these operating margins 1 to 3% per year over the next few years. So we're at a 4.5% operating margin level for Hims and Hers right now, and the company is trading at a very, very low price to sales multiple. What happens 3, 4, 5 years from now if the company continues to grow in excess of 50% and they increase their operating margin to, let's say, 10% over that period of time? That's what you want to see, is compounding growth, and that growth being leveraged on the bottom line to increase profitability. That's the tailwinds that Hims and Hers have behind them. And if we're going to take away these risks and have all of these pharmaceutical companies come to Hims and Hers and say, you know what, we want you as one of the distribution platforms that we are interacting with, that's going to be a phenomenal position for the company to be in. So shares are up 24% today, but I think the tailwinds behind Hims and Hers are lasting. They're going to last for 10, potentially 20 years. This is fundamentally a disruptive platform that's taking out the pain of going to the doctor and then of going to the pharmacy. If you have done that at any point in the last few years, you know just how much time and energy that takes and how expensive it can be. Hims and Hers is bringing transparency, and it's bringing more access to the medical community, and they're increasing the number of products that they have on the platform. GLP-1s is the one that's gotten the most attention over the past year, but they're bringing menopause products onto the platform in 2025. They have ED and hair loss products. Those are expanding as well. They're improving the offerings that they have to customers. I think we're just going to see the number of products that Hims and Hers has explode year after year after year. That's going to increase their addressable market. That's going to make them a bigger platform that these pharmaceutical companies then have to interact with. It's going to give them power over companies that are making generics. So they're going to be able to make appealing generics. Then you have the compounding business, the peptide business they just acquired. There's a lot going on for Hims and Hers, and investors get a ton of optionality in this business. And we're going to get announcements like this, partnerships like this, I think, more and more as the company is getting more attention and growing their revenue. This is an aggregator in the market. The comparison would be Netflix and media. Eventually, all the old media companies had to deal with Netflix because they were such a behemoth. I think Hims and Hers is eventually going to get there. That's why the stock's up big today. But I think this is still a 10x potential stock. That's why I hold it in the asymmetric portfolio. So like I said, if you want more of my stock picks and coverage, check out Asymmetric Investing, my newsletter. And if you haven't tried FinChat, go to finchat.io/AS. Like I said, this is a product that I use every single day, and it just keeps getting better and better over time. It's another one of these platform companies that once you start building the platform, you're able to pull in more and more information. They have financials, they have transcripts, If you want to interact and ask artificial intelligence questions about something that's going on with the company, you can do that. See what insiders are doing. I just can't recommend it highly enough. So check that one out. Like I said, you can get started for a couple of weeks for free and then 25% off just for this week. That sale ends on May 2nd. So there's a little bit of urgency there. But let me know what you think about hims and hers today. Leave those comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.